branching on to the third, the lover.
Yeah. So, so with the lover, in his fullness, the lover is spiritual, the lover is passionate, empathetic, and appropriately sensual. And I think that's really important. Maybe we can dig into that in a little bit more here. But basically, the lover is not just pursuing romance with another person, right? The lover is somebody who pursues life and is vibrant and who has this energy, this creative energy, and is in tune with their intuition and with their emotion and is in connection with the world around them. So, this lover energy is is it provides depth. It provides a perspective, right? Where if you only have even a healthy warrior energy, if you don't have the lover energy, you don't have the warmth, you don't have the empathy, you don't have the sympathy for other people and their plight, right? You're not in touch with your own emotions, and you're much more likely, by the way, to end up in one of the negative poles of the other archetypes because you're not aware enough of your own inner world to know, what's going on in yourself, and let alone what's going on around you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's like maybe a lover's trait could be compassionate and empathetic, and that's probably a few traits. It's like I feel as if I'm maybe on that category, and I feel like you could be too, of like compassionate, caring, and sympathetic, empathetic, those kinds of feelings. But like I feel like I just a personal experience with me, it's like sometimes I feel like I can be too compassionate, or like I can sometimes let people walk over me because it's like they're wanting to do something and I'm like, I can't say no, I can't say no. Or they're talking my ear off for so long and I can't say like, well, I have other things I have to do. Or it's like that. You're right. I could maybe turn into one of a weakling bending over. I'm so compassionate that I'm going to sacrifice most of my day and desires and dreams
Yeah.
for your sake. Or, it's a balance with a lot of these, but I can totally see
Yeah,
how.
and what you're describing there, right there, is that's the impotent variant. It's the passive variant of the lover. So the impotent is disconnected. He always plays it safe. A lot of times there's a flat affect, especially as we get more into that negative passive pole, we become much more depressed. And then we're alienated from our relationships when we're in the impotent energy. And we live this life of kind of controlled safety, and it's devoid of desire. And so that kind of closed, safe, scared mentality is afraid to step up and speak our truth and live out the fullness of the lover archetype. Whereas the opposite of the impotent is the addict. And of course, this is a word we all know, obviously, right? The active variant of the healthy lover archetype, the addict, is hedonistic, materialistic, unfaithful, idolatrous. So the addict is always looking for some new thrill. They're living for the hope that the next thing they find, the next fix will fix them. That's kind of what the addict is living for. So it's the kind of traditional Don Juan. You think of biblical stories of like King Solomon, who starts off great, and then toward the end of the story, the dude's got 700 concubines, and he's living in this like just hedonistic lechery, right? That just disgusting debauchery, where it's like he's lost himself to his own passions, and he has no control and no ability to say no because this is what he lives for.
Yeah, I totally see that in our culture, in my life too. Like, I guess porn being a problem I've faced, I'm kind of recovering from it at the moment. And I know you who have been recovering from it for a long time as well.
Yeah.
And like, it's such a trap to fall into of like you were saying, like you're craving love and you're craving what the true lover could have, but you're falling for cheap hedonistic routes that are going to lead to just needing more and more of it, and it's never going to be satisfying enough. And it's just like, whew, I see that in our culture. Like, I think there's a stat of like men who scroll on Instagram and look at other girls on a daily basis, they're going to be lot less satisfied in their relationships and have a higher chance of just ending it. And it's just like, it's like we're chasing this like fantasy of like, oh, the grass is greener. Oh, quick pleasure. I don't exactly know why. I guess biologically, I guess males are like so driven when it comes to like the sexual drive, but it's like, man, I guess like it takes a lot for me to kind of get over that urge and to like try to live out what a true lover should do. But that's just kind of been my experience, but it's been getting a lot better, and I'm very thankful that, but yeah.
Yeah, if I could just rabbit trail on that for a second.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so one of the reasons for that, one of the reasons we live in a society where men are so hypersexual is because we have been socialized to believe that the only two emotions we're allowed to feel are anger and horny, right? Where angry and horny are the two things that men are allowed to feel. And so we have the same breadth of emotion as our female counterparts, right? Like the women in our lives who have all these emotions, right? They don't even have enough words for all of them half the time. And I'm over here like, me mad, me horny, right? And that's all I feel. Well, here's what's happened, man. We have the same emotions, but because we're only allowed to feel those two things, we've taken all those and we've crammed them down into these two categories. So if I'm sad, I'm always angry. If I'm frustrated, I'm angry. If I'm hurt, I'm angry. And I just default. It's a zeros and ones, man, on and off. If I want connection with another human being, I'm horny, right? If I want some empathy, I'm horny. If I want, whatever, deep conversation, I'm horny. And that was a really big realization for me as I got into recovery from the whole porn thing, was that for me, what I really wanted was connection with another human being, right? And
Yeah.
it didn't even have to be sexual, but I didn't know how to express that, and B, how to get it. And so no matter how much I tried to not use porn all the time, I couldn't stop because I wasn't getting what I needed, and I didn't understand what I needed in the breadth of all these emotional needs that I had as a complex human being, that I need emotional intimacy, that I need connection, that I need respect, that I need, people to look at me and see the good in me, right? Porn gave me this pseudo sick, syrupy, sweet, disgusting version of that felt good for a minute. And then, of course, in the end, it left me feeling even worse about myself than I did to begin with.
Totally. Yeah, it's like, I think you said it pretty well. It seems like a lot of guys are not that emotionally intelligent. Like, they might feel one thing and then kind of equate it to being something else, or they're not used to flushing out their thoughts, feelings, desires, wishes, really to anyone, because they've been taught by maybe their dad or their lack of dad, oh, men just keep it inside. And, I know some of the people I grew up with who live like that. And I'm like, wow, that's why I'm so huge on this counseling thing. It's just like being able to get over yourself and express what you're feeling, because you're not that smart, but you're going to be way stupider if you hold all those ideas inside. It's like, I feel like, in my opinion, like if I'm kind of crazy. I have so many thoughts, but if I hold them in for too long, I kind of go insane, and I'm like, whew, and I might make a terrible decision because I've been thinking it through, but it's like the instant you talk it out, wow, now it makes a lot more sense. Oh, that's not as good of an idea. Or that's how it's been with porn. It's like, oh, it's such a good idea, you can do it. And then it's like, but then you express it out to maybe your people you're around, and you're like, oh, it wasn't as good of an idea. Or I don't know. I'm just a huge fan of promoting people in general, but men specifically, to get in touch with what they're feeling and to just learn how to be vulnerable. Not to everyone. You don't have to be like me, but like just to a few people. Choose a few people in your life that you're like, okay, I'm going to choose to truly be vulnerable. It's like, I don't get why in our culture so many guys are like, let's talk about football, beer, and chicks, or like the classic non-deep joking around kind of talk. And I'm like, I don't understand it. Why can't we dive to the next level? And why can't guys be vulnerable? But there's probably psychological reasons and social reasons for all that. But it's just it's a mess kind of.
Well, and it takes strength. I mean, that's the other thing, right? You think about it like even like with a physical posture, right? When somebody comes at you, you immediately put your dukes up, right? That's the protective posture. And I think as guys, we do a lot of posturing. And when we feel insecure, we go into a protective stance. What takes more strength, to stand like this or to stand with your arms at your side, right? And I think like that's the reality here, is that when we learn to be vulnerable, it takes such a massive amount of strength for us to be vulnerable. Like for you, was it your first episode that you talked about the porn thing?
Yeah.
Man, that is so that takes a lot of intestinal fortitude. Like that, being vulnerable on that level, man, it like most people can't stomach that, because what are people going to think of me, right? It takes so much strength when we to let our guard down and to be honest with people, and maybe they don't like it. Who knows what they're going to say? I mean, that takes some courage, man.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, honestly, I feel like I'd still be an addict if I didn't do what I did, honestly. Like, I
And
was.
that's the paradox. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the paradox of this whole thing, is that the courage to overcome our addictions comes from the community around us, and from the strength of having a brotherhood and having other men who support us, both our own age, I think, and then if we can find them, having heroes and mentors who will walk with us through this process. And that was what it was for me too, is that I had a mentor who came alongside me, who had slain his own dragons and showed me how to do it. And that was when I was finally able to overcome and step out of that addict energy.
Yeah. I'm glad that you found him, and I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, me
And
too, man.
phew. And I remember I listened to your talk on how, like, sometimes it takes a woman in your life that's really important also to kind of like step up and be like, oh, I need to really start being a man, a truly good man, a godly man, whatever you'd want to say. But it's like, I don't know, having that kind of combo of like, are you going to choose me or the porn? What are you going to choose? The
Oh
fantasy or
man.
me? And like, I bet that combo was
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like,
And that's where the female warrior energy comes in. Like, is she gonna fight for you? Like
yeah.
when you're being a little whiner, is
Mm-hmm.
she gonna, and I talk to women all the time, I say, look, I know this is not fair, but here's what you're gonna have to do in this scenario. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
look that guy in the face, and you're gonna have to say, all right, buddy, time to put your big boy pants on. You're gonna choose me or the porn, right? You want a real woman? You want to have sex with a real woman, or you want to whack off for the rest of your life? It's your choice. So you decide right now and let me know, right? And of course, inside, she's dying inside because she loves this guy and she wants to be with him and she knows what he can be. She's seen his potential, right? But my wife has had those kinds of conversations with me where it's like, you know, are you going to step up or what are you going to do? And the important thing here, though, for the ladies in the audience, like, the important thing is that you don't talk down to him. Don't disrespect him, because that's going to, if you slip into one of the dysfunctional poles of your energy, you're going to start slipping into a dysfunctional kind of mothering role of the man in your life, right? And you're going to start telling your husband that, treating him like a little boy, and that's going to perpetuate the problem.
Yeah.
And he's still responsible for his energy,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to speak to him in a healthy, like, peer to peer energy, where you're calling him out And hopefully he'll respond to that and he'll rise to that, knowing it's not your responsibility to do it, but because you love him, you're taking a risk and stepping in and speaking into this area in his life where he needs to grow.
Yeah, it's true. Like, just to get even more vulnerable, I guess a week ago, I I guess over the past 8 months, I've watched porn twice. You know, I'm on this like road out of it, and each time I've done it, I've told my girlfriend about it within honestly 20 hours of it happening, you know, like quickly. Sometimes I didn't want to tell her and I didn't want it to be the reality that happened. Like sometimes there's always like, oh, it didn't happen. No one needs to know. No one needs to know. But it's like, if you go down that route, it's just going to happen more and more and more. And I know myself that if I didn't tell her, it would be still happening. But like she, you know, I'm proud of how she responded of like, well, she didn't look down on me, but the main thing she was just hurt. Like, why did Harley do that? You know, am I not enough? And etc. And it's like seeing that, and instead of her saying like, you should have known better, kind of like mothering, like that wouldn't been nearly as effective as her just explaining how that just made her feel. Like, wow, that really just hurts my feelings. But since then, I've put up even more barriers in my life, and actually have a whole like poster of all the reasons not to right near in my room with a picture of her and I of like,
awesome,
fantasy or reality. What are you going to choose? You got to step it up. And so I'm just,
yeah,
I'm saying all this because it's just accountability. I just want to keep running from that because it is such a trap.
And let me say this too here. I
Yeah.
think because we don't have any women in the conversation with us. I can anticipate the argument about like, okay, so what if my boyfriend or my husband is so addicted and he won't quit or he can't stop, that kind of thing. And I think like one of the things I'll say there is being healthy as a woman, like these, when we watch porn, it cuts to the heart of who we are as men, and it cuts to the heart of the women in our lives, because it tells them that they aren't enough. It tells them that they aren't beautiful. It at the heart of most women, they want to be the prize. They want to be the one that our hearts long for, right? And they don't want us to be looking around. And so, certainly not all women have a problem with porn, but I would say most women I talk to are like, yeah, I don't like this. On the best case scenario, worst case scenario, I've seen it destroy marriages, right? In fact, in my life, the real turning point for me was I was engaged, and I was struggling with it, and it came to the point where my wife sat me down and she said, we weren't married at this point. She said, you either get this under control or I'm not going to marry you. And I was devastated, right? But again, she did it with respect. She honored me in the process, and she said, look, I know you're better than this. And I believe you're going to rise to the occasion. But if you don't, I can't be your wife. And it's sad to me that she had to be the one to do that. But I'll tell you what, man, I got I put it in gear right then, because I'm like, I'm not going to lose this thing in my life. And if she's going to set this boundary, I'm going to rise to it. So sometimes as a woman, it's appropriate to set those hard boundaries with the guy in your life who's living out of either the impotent or the addict, negative archetype here.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I think like sometimes it takes the woman to realize why you maybe should just try to strive to be the pinnacle of these archetypes. Like, I don't know, I was looking up loneliness statistics, or heard like, I think it was like 40% of men under 30 haven't had sex in the past 12 years or 12 months. Like there's a lot of young men who are lonely, and there's probably a lot of young women who are lonely, but it's like, I don't know exactly how to solve that. But the point is, it's like, you can do better than looking at fantasies and feeling like crap and dropping your testosterone. And just, I feel like when you go down that route, I feel like implicitly you just become less attractive. You respect yourself less, and when you respect yourself less, women are going to respect you less, and they're not going to want to come talk to you. And yeah, it's way easier said than done, but man, I
Yeah,
as a person who's walking from it and seeing like honestly the hell that it can bring upon my life, I hope anyone listening can just honestly reach out to me if you need help or reach out to someone because it's needed.
absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. No. Yeah, that's great, man.